In this video we're going to show a few more variations on facing and turning. This will be grooving, and we're also going to be doing some cut off or parting with another tool. So right now, to begin, I've just put a 60-degree tool in here. This is actually designed for threading, but we'll see how we can do some grooving operations as well as some chamfering operations with it. So to begin, we're just going to put a shallow V-groove in the face of this part. So that's fairly simple. Those are very, very shallow, and I wasn't measuring on the hand wheel. Normally you'd want to do that. Now you might think that you could use this tool to help bevel the inside of that hole, but one thing you do have to be aware of is clearance, and in this case we would impact the tool against the outside face before we were able to attempt to bevel that hole. However, on the outside, we could use this to bevel that edge. Now this isn't going to be at 45 degrees because of the angle of the tool, but we could modify that to get closer to a 45 degree if we wish to. So as you can see, that's cutting much easier than the high-speed steel one was. I'm going to go ahead and rotate the tool, and we'll do a few other items with it here. So now we just did some facing and a quick chamfering operation there. We're going to go ahead and do some turning operations. To begin, we're going to cut a little bit deeper V-groove here. Fairly straightforward. Now if we wanted to, we can actually measure with our hand wheels and start putting some grooves at specific intervals and at specific depths. So here I'm just going on the Z-axis about 20 thousandths, which is fairly small still, so these are going to be very close together. And then I'm making the grooves just about a thousandth or two deep, not very deep at all. So I'm not sure how well the camera is going to pick that up, but all that we were basically doing is we were creating a little bit of texture on that surface. Obviously you could go in deeper if you wanted to do something decorative, and you can see that one V-groove that we cut. You can get forming tools to cut coves and to cut other shapes, but let's go ahead and do a deeper grooving operation, not straight in, but we're going to show how this tool can cut both left and right. So we're going to set a depth of cut and then move a short way on the Z-axis, and we're going to set a depth of cut again and just go back. Do a little bit heavier cut. So fairly simple, and we could make this wider, obviously. This isn't going to have square shoulders on it due to the shape of the tool, but we could go quite a bit wider there. We're working on a pretty short piece here, so I didn't want to get up into the jaws. Next, let's take a look at parting off. Now, parting off actually requires another tool with a specialized tool holder, and I did not show that tool in the lathe tooling video, so we're going to look at it now. So I've gone ahead and I've mounted a part off tool in here, also sometimes referred to as a grooving tool. It does require a special tool post. This is a very thin tool. This tool does require a lot of lubrication, and this is one of the more difficult items to get right in turning. I wouldn't recommend using a hacksaw, although some people do and have success with that, but there are a lot of dangers around that as well. When you are using this tool, you want to run the machine very slow, roughly a third of the speed you would normally do cutting on. So we're going to see just how low we can run this tool and not get the cutter to bog down. So start with a little bit of lubrication. And then a slow and steady cut. You don't want to do anything side to side with this. You only want to move this in the x-axis. You can get these in different thicknesses. If you are wanting to use them for other groove forming. Now I'm probably using more lubrication than is really necessary here, but it's probably better to have more than it is to have not enough. We could do this at a higher speed than what we're doing here, but again, when you're beginning out, when you're first starting and beginning, for your own safety, don't try to push the machine very hard. So we have quite a bit of the tool into the workpiece right now. And as we're doing this, the sides of the tool are going to still be rubbing. Although they shouldn't be cutting, there will be some friction and there will be some rubbing there. Now if you're doing a particularly large part, you might want to back out the cutter and let it cool off a little bit. The other thing you can do is cut a wider slot to give it a little bit more clearance. So you'd basically cut two slots side by side part way through. So the other reason we want to run this at a very low speed is as we get close, the part will end up falling off if our tool is set at the correct height. There may be a small nub But particularly in aluminum, you'll just be able to twist the part off if it doesn't fall off on its own. So there we have it. That is going to be quite a bit warmer operation. So your part may be kind of hot coming off. Be aware of that, depending on how much lubrication, the speed, the depth of cut, all that good stuff. As you can see, we do have a little nub there. Now we could turn this, put it back in the chuck and turn that off, or simply use a bit of sandpaper and just sand that off, or a grinder and grind it off with a Dremel, so on and so forth. So there's all the operations that you really need to know on a lathe. We've gone over again facing the part, which is cutting this, the end of the workpiece to be flat and square. Then we've gone over facing, which is turning the piece down to a diameter. And we've done boring. The variations that we've done on these are, a variation on boring is drilling and center drilling. We did both of those. We've done some groove cutting, which is again a variation on turning. And we've done a cutoff operation, which is another variation on turning. So this piece is completely worthless. It serves no purpose other than it's the first piece you turned. If you decided to make something a little more useful, good for you. But otherwise, you can just put this up as a conversation piece somewhere, or if you don't wish to keep it, just toss it in the trash. So here's just, I wiped off the oil off the part. You can slightly see those grooves we cut in the face. You can see that the drill point that we put in the bottom there, we don't have a perfectly flat bottomed hole, and there's a couple little chatter marks down there in the bottom as well. We have some very, very fine grooving here that is spaced at a constant distance apart and a constant depth. Then we have a little bit of a deeper V groove there, still pretty shallow. Then we cut a wider groove, so you could use this for, say, like a pulley, would definitely be that type of a groove. And then the cutoff operation. The cutoff operation does leave a little bit of a rougher surface, so that is something you would probably want to do some finishing on, or at least lap it if it's just going to be the base of a piece.